To start with, you can tell me all you know about this fellow Bourne.
Bourne?
Yes, the man from the ministry. You met him at that stupid all-day jamboree. Or is it too early in the day for you?
Yeah, well, I think we did make some progress, John.
None that I recall.
You mean Philip Bourne?
I mean the one that kept on holding things up. The nitpicker in chief. I seem to remember you were with him at the end of the meeting.
Oh, him, yes. Well, he was rather concerned that we didn't mistake his motives.
For what?
Sheer bloody mindedness.
I don't. He knows that we've probably got a world beater in the VTOL. He knows how much I want that production contract out of the minister. By holding things up just enough, he draws attention to himself. Civil servants are ambitious too, you know, and he, in particular, by showing a sense of caution, he can do as much for himself as you can with a big sail. The trouble with the Bournes of this world is that they thrive on stalemate, on inaction, and I've had enough. I know his salary, I know his prospects, I know his ambitions, but I need to know more. You needn't worry. You're going to meet him this morning at the ministry.
But the diary's brimming, John.
With what?
Well, to start with, there's Hopkins.
Oh, cancel him.
And I've got to meet Grant at the House of Commons. Yeah, well, he's interested in meeting those Australian Air Force people who are due.
Yes, I bet he is. Well, tell him nothing.
There's not much he doesn't know already.
Well, don't fill in the gaps.
Oh, well, it would have been better.
If I'd have told you about the meeting in advance. Well, I didn't know myself till yesterday afternoon.
John, I was here till last night, till 8 o'clock.
Special circumstances call for special hours and special methods.
Oh, it's just...
Did you know where Forbes has been for the past 10 days?
Unofficially.
All right, I could have told you about the meeting yesterday. So you know that Forbes has been in Tripoli.
I'd heard.
And why?
I know that Corbett's worried about air conditioning for the crew, but low level in hot climates.
Did he alter the test program? Did he get the VTOL out to Tripoli?
In fairness, John, he's lumbered with a very heavy test schedule.
One of these days, Don, you're going to lean over so far backwards being fair, you'll give yourself a rupture. When did you learn of Corbett's concern?
He mentioned it.
After I'd got the VTOL out to Tripoli. After Bourne had hinted to the minister that he had reservations about the air conditioning. Well, she's back now, ready for quantity production. I want that production contract. The minister's slip of paper, the £40 million ticket. And I want it now. The piece of paper that really counts.
I don't see how you can be so sure that it's Vaughan and Sasko holding you up there.
You don't have to be sure. Look, I've had enough of Bourne, I've had enough of Sasko, I've had enough of this supplication to Whitehall, of these genuflections to little men. I want Bourne bought over, won over, or discredited. I don't matter which, but I do mind when.
Whatever I can do, John. It's not like trading with a private airline.
Do you know how near we are? How very near?
Well, I know you dined with the minister last night.
Yes, till 2 o'clock in the morning. And not a mention of the Tripoli tests. Well, that took some doing. Now, Henry's finishing his Tripoli report by 9:30. He's doing it down in the cottage. I want you to collect it personally and give it to Miss Lingard and nobody else for copies. We're due at the ministry at 11:45 to meet Bourne and Sasko. And Don, this meeting is confidential. Nobody else knows about it, and nobody should.
Least of all, David Corbett.
I see. It's coming round to that time of day for you to be effective. Yes. Least of all him. I think you'll find that he will be sufficiently preoccupied. Sugden and Fraser are debating the production line. I've told Corbett to mediate, even if it takes all day.
Corbett, a copy of Forbes' report will reach you later today. No, delete that. Make it, Forbes is working on his tropical flight test report now. As soon as it's ready, we'll...
Yes, well, I see he's got you up with the dawn chorus too, Miss Lingard.
Oh, we're all going to be insomniacs at this rate.
Yes, well, it's very good for you. I mean, at this time, the air, for the complexion. Yeah.
Mr. Wilder's office? Oh, yes, Mr. Sugden, one moment. Mr. Wilder?
Yes?
Mr. Sugden on the phone for you, sir.
Oh, put him through, will you? Hello, Sugden. Look, if it's about the production line, see Corbett. No, no, there'd be no point in seeing me now.
Morning, Henry. Your housekeeper let me in. I wanted to catch you before that report of yours happened to bypass me.
Yes, well, I can't discuss it. I thought I made that clear on the telephone.
I don't want the detail, just the conclusion.
It'll all be in the report.
Via Wilder.
Wilder.
Were you nearly roasted alive? At low level in Tripoli, I mean, not by Wilder.
Yes, you designed the aircraft.
That's why I'm rather interested.
Then
And
ask Wilder.
as managing director of Ryan Airframes, I'm still in charge of the VTOL. You did try out a modified cooling system.
If you don't mind.
When will it be ready?
In half an hour without interruptions.
Can I use your phone?
Go ahead.
How are you getting along with Dunnett?
He's an excellent navigator.
And engineer. Bradley Heath 47. And as such, invaluable on the Tripoli tests. I reckon he knows more about the VTOL now than any of us. He should, of course. He's been with it since it first flew. David Corbett here, my secretary, please. You didn't send him away on holiday, I hope. On Wilder's orders, perhaps?
No, I did not.
Miss Evans, get hold of Group Captain Mailer for me, will you, please? And tell Dunnett I want him in my office in half an hour. The advantage of multi-engine system, Forbes. When one cuts out, you can usually rely on the other.
This is entirely between you and Mr. Wilder. Don't try and involve me.
You are involved, Henry. Morning, Don. Oh, don't worry. Henry's been a good boy. He's made that way. Aren't you, Forbes?
Oh, God, what next?
I don't know why they don't stick to making aeroplanes. Nothing like power for turning men into boys. You know, if Wilder can't stand him around, why doesn't he do something about it?
Well, he can't. Not yet. Didn't forgive Corbett. You don't chuck him out. Corbett's too close to identify with the VTOL. Prestige and all that.
As he designed the aircraft, that's not surprising.
Yes, he's trying to delay the production contract. Not from the best of motives.
So Wilder says we all send him to Coventry or some such rot.
Now, don't be bitter, Henry. No, it's not that. Stranding, bypassing, perhaps. It's John's island game. He's a dab hand at leaving people on islands, our John.
Well, as far as I could see, Corbett didn't look very shipwrecked. On the contrary, it's Wilder who's beginning to look a bit tattered. Who's Naylor, by the way?
Group Captain Mailer, DFC, retired. Ex-officer and gentleman. Chief contact man with Ryan Airframes Limited. On more first-name terms with Chief RAF Brass than any Secretary of State. Why?
Nothing. I better get on, then. You know, I can't see what all the hurry's about, can you?
Well, I'll be sure there must be some good reasons.
Oh, don't you start. Why don't you go into the garden? 20 minutes, all right. Does he want sealing wax on it?
Mailer, I'm glad you could make it.
You were lucky. You caught me just as I was leaving the house.
Good. Come on in, please.
Mr. Corbett, I don't know if you remember, we're supposed to be having a meeting.
And now we're not. Where's Fraser, by the way?
I said I'd tell him when you came in.
Right. Make it tomorrow morning, same time.
Mr. Corbett, I've got 30 blocks down there waiting to start work on this. Now, they can't do hands turn until we've decided on this layout.
All right, Sugden, we'll decide now. Tell them to go ahead on Fraser's amended layout.
Yes, well, that's what we're supposed to be meeting about, you see. Mr. Wilder said
we
that
should
we
meet and discuss it. We've met. We've discussed it. All right? Did you get hold of Dunnett?
He's down at the VTOL hangar.
Right. Tell him to stay where he is. I'll see him down there in half an hour.
All right, Don. Leave this with me, will you? And be ready in half an hour.
Right.
I shall want 4 copies of this and my car, please.
Mr. Wilder's car, please.
Not now, Sugden.
Yeah, well, this is important, Mr. Wilder.
I said not now. Aren't you supposed to be with Corbett?
Yes, well, that's just the point, you see. It's all off. He won't discuss it, that's all.
What do you mean, that's all?
Well, we go ahead on the basis of Fraser's amended layout, he says.
Go into my office. I won't be a minute. Sure.
Thank
Well, go on.
Corbett's lined up with Fraser against me.
When will people around here stop thinking it's all just a game? One faction against another.
Well, it's just what it is these days, isn't it? Your side and his.
And now you are on my side. I find that very comforting.
All I want is a decision, Mr. Wilder. I've got 30 blokes twiddling their
Mr.
thumbs
Corbett
down there.
has given you a decision. Do you want me to overrule him?
I don't think that we need any extension on this line.
Well, Mr. Fraser thinks that if we don't, there'll be a congestion. Will there?
Well, there shouldn't be. You did approve this layout yourself once, you know.
I don't give a damn what I approved once, nor am I interested in your feud with Fraser. I want that production line finished, and I want it finished quickly. And it had better be efficient for your sake and Fraser's. Arthur. Did Mr. Corbett give a reason for cancelling the meeting?
Well, he seemed a bit taken up with other things. Oh, as a matter of fact, he had somebody else in there with him.
Who?
Some group captain or other.
Hold on a minute. Miss Lingard,
Yes, Mr. Wilder?
I want to see Mr. Corbett immediately. Do it your way.
What, back to the original, you mean?
Well, that's your way, isn't it? For God's sake, man, you either believe in it or you don't.
Right.
I'll be at the VTOL hangar, Miss Evans. Jessie, I'm very grateful.
Thank you.
Don't forget Mr. Wilder's expecting you.
I'll be at the hangar.
Can I tell Miss Lingard when you'll be back?
Just say I'll be at the hangar. That's all. Morning, Dunnett. You weren't frizzled alive then.
Morning, David.
That is Tripoli town, I take it.
Well, it was like an oven in here. At first. I suppose Henry told you how dodgy things were?
Not yet.
Mr. Corbett to the telephone, please. Mr. Corbett to the telephone, please.
That you?
Mr. Corbett to the telephone, please.
Find out who it is and tell them I'll ring back, will you?
Then where the devil is he?
He's at the VTOL hangar, Mr. Wilder.
David. I think perhaps you better explain.
Your chief test pilot was too preoccupied to discuss the results of a vital test program, so I find out for myself.
I'm not talking about that.
Oh, I think it is.
You were supposed to see Sugden and Fraser.
A waste of time.
Instead of getting on with the important things around here, you stopped Forbes getting on with his job, and then you swan off on a matter about which there's no vital urgency whatsoever.
I can see why you're trying to cut me out, but spare the cat.
If there's anything more pathetic than an executive with no imagination, it's one with too much. I can't stand persecuted men.
Me? Who's been chasing all over the heath trying to find who this morning?
I want that production line agreed today.
You don't give a damn whether it's agreed or not as long as it works. So I've decided to go ahead on Fraser's layout.
And I've decided we don't.
I hear Tripoli proved interesting.
You heard right. But in the future, you leave my chief test pilot to get on with his job.
Not if it means I can't get on with mine.
You'll be kept in the picture.
Oh, yes. I heard about the Tripoli log 2 hours before Forbes set off. I only heard by the back door they were on their way home yesterday. If you want me out of the way, set about it properly with the board, with the ministry, and see where it gets you.
It's not convenient at the moment. In the meantime, you will not arbitrarily cancel meetings which are important to the smooth working of Scott Furlong. And you will, if you're wise, curb your personal prejudices and not interfere with people who are working directly to me.
Anything else?
Yes. When I send for you...
You come running. You've enough sprinters on their knees around here. I prefer walking myself.
And you'll see Sugden and Fraser.
Of course. Later.
Oh, and if they're curious why Corbett isn't here, for God's sake, don't look guilty. Just say he's caught up with some technical problem, that's all.
Wilder. Pleasure. How are you, Henderson?
Well, sir.
Gentlemen, you've met our Vice Marshal Sasko.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Hello.
How do you do?
David tells us you have some interesting news, Wilder.
Yes. Hello, David.
Good morning.
Vice Marshal Sasko and I have raised a number of questions.
My information is that you have a specific objection that the VTOL has not been sufficiently tried at low level in the tropics and that the crew could be severely discomforted.
It's fair to say that this is a problem we foresaw.
One that you have stressed.
We happen to be discussing the general integrity of the airframe at low level.
That is the prime purpose for which it was developed, low level.
Well, if you have anything to tell us about cockpit conditions, Wilder, I, for one, would be interested to hear it.
The VTOL has been undergoing trials in Tripoli.
Yes, that much we know.
Intensive trials.
Of the integrity of the airframe.
No, of cockpit conditions. Corbett knows the VTOL off by heart, of course, but if you want your memory refreshing, I'm sure Henderson won't mind, David.
Thank you.
You will see that Forbes found conditions intolerable at first.
I should think so. The refrigeration unit seized solid when they were doing 800 miles an hour.
They could have been roasted alive.
Well, they were a little browned from sunbathing off duty.
Your chief test pilot doesn't give the height they were at when this mishap occurred.
I think you'll find he does.
100 feet.
Ah, yes. Most alarming.
Forbes knows his stuff. There were two partial seizures, then a complete breakdown when the cockpit temperature suddenly shot up.
Indeed. 0 to 100 centigrade in 2 minutes.
Lucky to get away with it, I'd say. Could have caused severe body tissue damage if the pilot hadn't throttled back to 250 miles an hour.
Well, we tried several modifications. And finally, the bearings on the expansion turbine were redesigned. Our contractors in Tripoli worked for a day and a night to do it.
You have the detailed test data?
That'll be ready later today. The vital thing is that the modifications were a complete success.
I don't see any reference to the extent of the testing of the modified system, I mean.
I think you'll find it was of convincing duration, enough to satisfy Forbes and the production engineer.
The tests were unusually intensive. Over 6 days, 21 hours, 45 minutes flying time. At ground temperatures of 60 centigrade and never below 50. In my view, they're conclusive.
Thank you, David. Naturally, I'd like to see the detailed test data, so no doubt would have Vice Marshal Sasko. Nevertheless, a fruitful meeting, gentlemen.
You will have the data by this afternoon, delivered personally by hand.
In that case, gentlemen, thank you very much. I think you've probably managed to surprise us, Wilder.
That is what I hope to do, so long as I've satisfied you as well.
Well, David, let's not leave it so long again. If I'd known you were coming, I'd have left lunch open. As it is, I'm committed to a dreary session with a pushful official out to wangle himself promotion.
All rather last minute, I'm afraid. We're pushing the test program pretty hard.
I hope you'll find yourself able to tell the minister that you are reassured.
I appreciate your reason for haste, Wilder. At the same time, you must see that I have to exercise a certain degree of caution.
Reasonable caution?
Meaning I'm unreasonably cautious.
No, I find you a very reasonable man. You know, I'm all for creaming off top civil servants into industry. We need somebody like you to keep a few of our brighter sparks' feet on the ground.
Brighter sparks like Corbett.
Well, he's a very talented designer.
But not yet a tycoon.
Well, he'll learn.
All the same, I'm glad you brought him along, Wilder. We think very highly of him here, and it would be a great loss if personalities were allowed to hold up the VTOL's development. One hopes there's nothing in it, but stories do get around.
Stimulated more often than not by our competitors, and best not believed. You know, you really should be in industry.
It's a pity we couldn't make lunch.
see you around the island sometime.
Yeah, hold on.
Wilder?
Well, he'll want a word.
Yes, I bet he will.
What do you think of that pair? Gunning devils.
They turn out to be right.
Do you think we're any nearer?
One thing's certain, Wilder isn't. He likes them neatly labeled, for him or against him, out in the open as sitting targets.
You know, I can't stand these Whitehall corridors. Give me the creeps. 1984 and all that.
You came by car, David?
Uh-huh.
Yes, well, Donald will take your car back. You can come back with me.
Sorry, I've got someone else to see here.
Will it take long?
Too long. And it's strictly uncuttable.
I shall want an explanation, you know, for your presence.
Well, is that necessary? I haven't missed a ministry conference on the Vitol in 2 years.
I shall want it today.
The main door's down that way. I go this way.
What about Sugden and Fraser?
I'm seeing them at 4 o'clock.
I don't know about you, Bourne, but I think we need a bit more to go on. He's in too much of a hurry for my liking.
Always is. And you know what they're saying, don't you? That if the aircraft industry is ever nationalized, he'll be put in to do a beaching.
Who started that one?
Him, probably.
Oh.
I want to know, and I want to know today, who tipped him off.
Look, John, don't mind my saying so, but don't you think you're letting Corbett get you down a bit? I mean, you've been pressing yourself a bit hard lately, and, well, he's young enough to take this kind of stress. It's beginning to show, John.
Look, when Wonder Boy really worries my guts, that'll be the day. I'm not losing weight, and I sleep very well, and I've taken nothing stronger than an aspirin for months. So, who tipped him off?
Bourne?
No, it wasn't him.
Oh, they're pretty chummy.
No, it wasn't Bourne. You didn't get very far, did you?
I didn't get the opportunity.
Well, you'd better find one, because I'm going to see Bourne again tomorrow.
Does Corbett know?
I don't care whether he knows or not. I want to find out what makes Bourne tick, and whatever it is, he's got to stop getting in the way or be stopped.
Well, there's still Sasko.
Oh, he's an airman, Don. He's just used to doing as he's told.
Could have been Grant, I suppose. Or Merle.
The honourable members for Scott Fairlock. Yes, never forget about the politicians. How well do you know Laura Chalice?
Well, to be honest, John, she scares the daylights out of me.
Because she's the chairman's personal assistant, or just because she's a woman?
She's too clever by half. She knows too much.
Yes, if anybody knows who's telling who what, it's her.
Well, not me, if you don't mind. I mean, well, suppose it is Grant.
Well, suppose it is.
You know what's going on there.
Look, that wouldn't stop her. She's a hard filly, sired by industry out of Fleet Street. Greenlee, stop at the next taxi rank for Mr. Henderson. She's been put in amongst us to stir things up between Corbett and Grant and me and whoever. Sir Gordon couldn't stir a rice pudding himself, but he knows what a good stir can do. Yes, Miss Chalice is on 5,000 a year to keep things stirring.
You know, when you phoned, I was just leaving for the Women's Press Club. And a non-starch, strictly low-calorie lunch. I've been going well for days until you are throwing me right out of my stride. Oysters, paella, meringues. I haven't the faintest idea why.
Well, I just happened to be in the city and John thought
It's a long way round from Whitehall, Don.
that you might like to see a rather important report from Forbes.
On the low-level tests, the air conditioning. Very important.
Well, yes, it is.
Later. Let's not spoil a delightful lunch.
Yeah, well, it's got out in rather a hurry.
And in great secrecy. Isn't it classified?
John needed to surprise the ministry man, Bourne.
And Corbett. How is Goliath coping with David?
My job is to send aeroplanes, Miss Chalice. I don't really...
I don't know that I want a vertical takeoff supersonic fighter just now, Mr. Henderson. Now, let me tell you why you came. You came because John Wilder expects to get the minister's intention to proceed any moment now. All on his own. No help from Corbett. He said I might know who gave David Corbett the nod. You know, I think he probably suspects James Grant.
Well, it Could have been him.
It wasn't.
Oh. Oh, let's forget about it, shall we? You know what John is.
No, let's cook something up for him. Or shall we just let him sweat it out?
Well, he may be satisfied with the Tripoli tests, but he'll soon find something else to latch onto in tandem with Sasko. I want to know whatever they're hatching, Jeffrey.
In view of what you say happened this morning, I should think the Air Vice Marshal is likely to be a little cagey.
What, with you?
Mr. Corbett,
Yes?
Mr. Wilder would like to see you.
Tell him I have an office full of people. I want to beat them to the punch, Jeffrey.
And Wilder.
She said what? Let's cook something up for him.
Ah.
Oh, I believe it was only a joke, John.
But nothing that she says is only a joke. I thought you were supposed to have a way with women.
Yeah, well, I mean, she was warming towards me at the end.
Yes?
Mr. Corbett's in a conference, Mr. Wilder.
Oh, is he with Sugden and Fraser still?
I don't know.
Oh, well, find out, and as soon as it's over, I want to see him. She could have a reason for covering up for God.
Well, of course she has.
I don't mean that. Look, sound him out, Don. Buy him some oysters. You never know, he might prove allergic to the damn thing. Yes?
Mr. Corbett's Works Managers Conference hasn't started yet. He's seeing Group Captain Naylor.
Oh, well, then, as soon as he's clear. Miss Lingard, did you, say Mailer?
Yes, Group Captain Naylor.
Oh, Miss Lingard, I want to see the group captain before he leaves the building. And look out his contract, will you? Oysters are off, Don. It's not Grant.
Hear from you this evening, then.
That's right. Bye.
Oh, yes. Come on in. So, we're doing it your way, Sugden.
So I understand, Mr. Corbett.
That's what happens when we rush things.
Yes, well, it's all being looked into. I'm checking it personally.
Our inspectors at Ryan Airframes have done all the checking that's needed. You know what this means.
Oh, yes, Mr. Corbett, yes, I know exactly what it means. It means that we might have to, if they're right, we shall have to modify the jigs.
And build those air intakes again.
Yes. If they're right.
Sugden, our inspectors say those air intakes aren't up to scratch, that they're outside the tolerance limits and can't be switched from one aircraft to another. You think they're making it all up.
I said I'm checking on it.
Well, then you better get on with it. I want an explanation. You rushed this sub-assembly line through to save time, you said. Now you better tell me how much time we've lost.
Yes. Must have been months since we met. At Bill Ryan's, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe it was. One doesn't get much opportunity to leave town these days.
Too tied up with your fellow Whitehall brass hats and all that, hmm?
I try to keep them warm.
Both the quick and the dead. Oh, sit down.
Thank you.
You see much of Air Vice Marshal Sasko these days?
I pop my head round his door now and then to show we're awake.
Oh, that he's awake. A remarkable club you chaps have. Per adua ad astra. I sometimes wonder how you senior officers translate that. Well, I saw Sasko this morning.
So I hear. I'm glad Tripoli went so well.
Tell me, Group Captain, when did you first hear about it?
Tripoli, you mean?
No. About the meeting.
Oh, sometime yesterday afternoon, I believe it was.
From Sasko.
Well, he did ask me what was afoot, yes.
And you told him.
I didn't know. Not until Corbett raised it today.
Raised it?
Yes, he asked me about the meeting. One was a little surprised he didn't know.
Anyway, I thought it was about time we met again. Thank you for dropping in.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Miss Lingard,
Yes, sir?
get hold of Mr. Atkinson. I want Group Captain Mailer's contract ended as from now. See that he's paid off, will you?
No, Mr. Corbett, he isn't. Well, I'm very sorry, but I can't tell you that. It's one of those mornings.
Oh, so I wish you'd let me know I wasn't going to be here.
I couldn't. You were already on your way when I telephoned your office. When the master says don't cancel any appointments before 9:45, I don't cancel any appointments before 9:45.
Well, I don't know who he's trying to baffle with this game, but he's certainly baffling me.
And me.
I suppose it's a state secret, is it, when he is due back?
Lingard, I want to see Wilder.
But I told you, Mr. Corbett.
Immediately.
He's out. As I was saying, it's one of those mornings.
Hey, wait a minute. I haven't looked yet.
Oh.
Oh, well, when he comes out from behind the curtains, you might just get him to look at that, will you? It's a bit urgent.
I take it that you got the amended test data yesterday afternoon.
And read it thoroughly. I know you're due to see the minister in a few minutes, Wilder. Doubtless you'd like to be able to tell him I'm now satisfied.
Well, if not, I should like to know why.
Why such haste?
Do you know how long you've been assessing the VTOL?
We're not here to indulge in brash optimism, Wilder. We're not salesmen.
You make them sound like a dirty word. They don't stagnate, you know.
There's a difference between stagnation and rushing to spend £40 million of public money.
No doubt you civil servants said that to Beaverbrook in 1940.
We're not at war, Wilder.
Nor do we need a vertical takeoff supersonic fighter. Is that what you're saying?
Don't misquote me.
Well, what are you saying?
We must be sure that we're not buying a £40 million pig in a poke.
Well, if you're not sure now, you never will be.
We've no right to agree to an intention to proceed if we're not sure.
Well, I don't mind, so long as you don't keep me hanging around in patience for hesitant civil servants. I've got a production line laid down. 8,000 men's jobs to think of. An aircraft which is probably the finest of its kind in the world.
We've put the best part of 10 million into it already.
Then protect your investment.
Yesterday, Wilder, you were saying that you needed someone to keep your bright young men's feet on the ground. What about yours?
All right. Mine, too. When are you thinking of coming over to join us?
Too much chrome and gloss, Wilder. I'd be slipping all over the place. Besides, there's the 2-year rule, a perfectly healthy one to make sure that we don't go
over to the industry with which you've been dealing. Well, I've no doubt that my chairman would find you invaluable in any one of half a dozen industries not connected with aviation.
Sir Gordon's absence is playing havoc with my figure. I wonder if you'd have taken him to lunch.
Laura, couldn't you cable him about Mailer?
He's not John Wilder, David. Positively hates cables.
I could countermand it.
Take my advice, don't.
You know, Mailer's invaluable to us on the VTOL.
Or to you. I know he's your eyes and ears among the gold braid. He's not Wilder's.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, he's still on the payroll.
I hope you know where the money's coming from. I thought you were giving our John a run for his money. Turning up like that at the ministry yesterday, for instance.
So you won't contact Sir Gordon for me?
Unless there's $1 million at stake, Sir Gordon has the capacity to remain singularly unmoved. Is there?
You know what's at stake.
You're letting Wilder make all the running, David. I hope you realize where that leads.
Well, I'll say this. He's starting earlier, finishing later, and worrying a lot more in between.
I know. It's just that he's made sure you're handicapped.
Yeah, for the present.
Today he certainly has. You're due at Boscombe Down this afternoon, I hear.
Yes?
You could put it off?
Possibly.
I should. Wilder's got the minister going out to the Heath this afternoon.
That's impossible. Nobody was at panic stations when I left.
They will be now. Wilder phoned them from the ministry, just before I joined you for this quite delightful lunch.
I wonder if I'll need a ticket to see my own aircraft.
Not if you organize the game, you won't.
Will you excuse me for a minute?
The phone's at the end of the corridor. You don't really need Mailer to keep you in touch, you know.
And how many air vice marshals do you know?
Intimately or by repute?
Well done.
If you don't mind, Minister, I think we'll have a look at the VTOL first and then the production line. We've got a lot to get through.
You're sure, Wilder? Real live wire, young Corbett.
Yes, he'll go a long way.
Car broke down in town. Didn't want to be late, so he catches a lift from the minister.
Yes, he's certainly got a nerve. Is Bourne feeling any happier?
John, what's the hurry?
That sounds exactly like Bourne.
Civil servant, John. Bound to be cautious. Much more so than you and me at any rate.
Well, caution doesn't build aeroplanes or anything else. What did he have to say about the way we overcame the air conditioning problem?
Wilder's not the only one who carries weight with the minister, as he'll find out when the minister asks him about the limited extent of the Tripoli trials.
I get him off that for a start. It's solved foolproof.
On that evidence, I don't think so.
We've got all the proof that's needed. At least Wilder has. And if you ask me, the minister knows it.
He's not as confident as he seems, David.
Well, if he isn't, I can't see why. Not after what the minister was saying on the way down here. He's so pro-VTOL and pro-Wilder, you'd think they'd been at the same school together.
David, would you take it as a sign of confidence when a businessman offers an inducement to a civil servant who happens to be in his way?
Well, that's Bourne's story, John, for what it's worth.
Oh, my God, for what it's worth is right. Do you think I'd resort to that?
I wouldn't put it past you, John.
What? A man like that? I'll admit, Alan, I might take some of your boys in a dire emergency, but Bourne...
He's made some very good points.
Yes. He's made an obsession about it, finding snags where none exist. I've no need to corrupt Bourne. I'd prefer to let the facts speak for themselves. That's why I asked you down here, to see the VTOL and the production line.
And to help me with my answer to those awkward questions on the VTOL contract that you've had planted on the order paper.
Well, I will admit that wasn't outside my calculations. All right?
Good afternoon, sir. Can we offer you a trip?
Not now, thanks, Forbes. I suppose Wilder put you up to that one. Besides, you might haul me off to Tripoli in that cockpit of yours.
We're well over that problem, sir.
Well, best of luck, Forbes.
Thank you, sir.
If you really want to shake Wilder, ask him about interchangeability of components, with special reference to the air intakes they've been building here at Scott Furlong.
Why? What's wrong with them?
Ask him.
Good stuff.
Is there some difficulty over air intakes? A question of interchangeability of components, sir. Wilder knows how the RAF people feel about spares that don't fit them.
Well,
Perhaps I can help, sir. It's true we have been having some difficulty on that score, but the production engineers are redesigning the jigs, and the existing air intakes are being modified to fit. Let's not get this out of proportion. It involves 2 weeks' work, at the most.
I've enjoyed it immensely, John. You likely to be home later?
oh, very much later.
Lot to catch up on, eh? I was going to say I shall be preparing my reply to those questions you're having raised. My secretary could call you, however.
I shall be here till about 9.
Good. He'll ring you.
I didn't tell you, Mr. Wilder, because you weren't here to be told. Now, if you're always out or you're not available, what do you expect me to do? Now, if you had the time, you'd have read all about it in that folder I left this morning, so don't tell me I'm keeping you in the dark. Because if you didn't know, you know who to blame, don't you?
Have you finished? Now, suppose you tell me who's responsible for those air intakes.
Mr. Wilder.
Yes?
Mr. Corbett's gone out, sir.
Is he expected back?
Oh, yes, but not for an hour or two, though.
I'll make sure that he gets a message to call me as soon as he does. Well?
It's just a question of pushing things too fast, Mr. Wilder.
Oh, yes. I don't suppose it has anything to do with you and Fraser fighting like...
Like what? Like you and Corbett?
I'll see you in the morning. Good night, Sugden.
John, you staying all night?
Oh, no, Don. Good night.
Anything I can do?
No, I'm just expecting a phone call.
Well, I'll hang on. We can go over to the White Hart.
Hello, yes? Yes, Corbett. Now. Have a whiskey, Don, to celebrate the showdown.
Well, if you don't mind, John, I think...
Nonsense. It's about time he was cut down to size. Good of you to spare the time, David. Drink?
I don't, thank you.
You must have been a great disappointment to our friend Bourne. Full marks.
Yes? Oh.
Yes, hello, Wilder here. Yes, all right. Thank you very much. Good night. Well, it will have to be postponed till some other time, David. Our, what do they call it? Confrontation. Oh, by the way, to save you the trouble of running to the chairman to say that I keep you in the dark, I think I should tell you that that phone call was from the ministry. The minister is going to tell the House on Tuesday that he has signed his intention to proceed. You did your bit this afternoon with Bourne, when you knew he couldn't win. And you never know. You might have done yourself a bit of good with the minister. Good night, David.
Well, is that really true, John?
What?
Well, the intention to proceed. Is he really signing it?
Well, I'd be a bit damn stupid to say that he was if he wasn't, wouldn't I?
Oh, good heavens. Are we going to celebrate?
No. Not now, Don. Some other time.
But, John, 40 millions and you...
Turn off the main lights as you go, will you? Good night.